name's Hideout and welcome to the Pantheon. Today we're going to be delving into the very cold region of Kaldheim, where there's some rather horrifying things happen, including our 2-mana friend here, Magda Brazen Outlaw, who's 2 mana, and she's a 2/1. She's a dwarf berserker, and other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. And you can sacrifice 5 treasures, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So, what's going on with her? She's making ramp, which is really cool. She wants to be dwarf tribal, but then artifact tribal and dragon tribal all in the same time. Really quite an interesting card, and I like her. There's a lot of play to her. If you like these videos, please do consider subscribing. It makes me very happy, and I go, like that. I smile a little bit more each time. Without further ado, let's have a look at the top 5 cards. In at number 5, we have Dwarven Blood Boiler. Triple red for a 2/2. Tap an untapped dwarf you control. Target creature gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So, this is really good because obviously we're going to be playing a lot of dwarves because we want to make a lot of treasures. But this gets around Summoning Sickness, as it's this card that is tapping the cards. Very similar to Azami, the wizard tribal commander, that can tap a wizard to draw a card. Obviously, this is slightly worse in every single way. But this is a really good way to get our dwarves tapped, and, you know, we can use it as soon as they come in. To go along with it, here's a couple of other dwarves that tap. Dwarven Blast Miner is a 2-mana 1/1 that has pay 3 and tap it. Destroy target non-basic land, which is very, very red and can be very, very powerful. Can really set your opponents back. And it also has Morph, which means you can play it face down as a 2/2 creature for 3 mana and turn it face up any time for its Morph cost. So you could surprise your opponents and blow up their Bayou or something like that. Really get them. Then Dwarven Miner, 2 mana for a 1/2, pay 3, tap it, destroy target non-basic land. Exactly the same sort of effect. But when we tap these guys with our commander on the field, we're going to be generating a treasure token, which is really, really nice. You know, a nice bit of ramp, and we're setting our opponents back. Finally, look at this artwork. It's absolutely insane. I love it. It just stands out so, so much. The ginger beard and hair, it just looks ridiculous. Dwarven Thaumaturgus? 3 mana for a 1/2. Tap, switch power and toughness of target creature until end of turn. Effects that alter the creature's power alter its toughness instead, and vice versa until end of turn. I don't know the oracle wording on this. I assume it just flips it and then it stays flipped. But it's another way that we can just tap a creature to generate a token. Really, really good and nice bit of ramp. Then we've got Dwarven Recruiter, a dwarf classic here. 3 mana for a 2/2. When it comes into play, search your library for any number of dwarf cards and reveal those cards. Shuffle your library and put them on top of it in any order. Really, really nice. It's a dwarf, so we can tap it using our dwarfish nonsense. And it can set up our draws, so we're getting a ton of nice dwarves. Then Dwarven Mine is a land mountain, which taps for a red. When it enters the battlefield, tapped unless you control 3 or more mountains. Then Dwarven Mine enters the battlefield untapped, create a 1/1 red dwarf token. Just a nice little way of making a dwarf, and because it's in a land slot, it's a free include in this deck. Then we've got Dwarven Grunt, a 1 red for a 1/1 with Mountain Walk. So this doesn't have a tap ability itself, but because of Mountain Walk, if we're playing against any other red players on the field, they're going to have mountains, so it's a free tap because we can just get in for damage every single turn. And with our commander, it'll be a 2/1. Absolutely incredibly powerful plays. Which brings me on to my number 4 spot. And seeing as we're talking about dwarves, why don't we have 7 dwarves? 2 mana for a 2/2. The dwarf. 7 dwarves gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck may have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarves. Absolutely fantastic. So on flavor, and it's just perfect fit for this deck. It just really, really works. So to go along with 7 dwarves, we've got 7 dwarves, a 2 mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control, and a deck may have 7 cards named 7 dwarves. To go along with that, 7 dwarves is a 2 mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck may have 7 cards named 7 dwarves. To go along with that, we've got 7 dwarves, a 2-mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck may have 7 cards named 7 dwarves. To go along with that, we've got 7 dwarves, a 2-mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other card named 7 dwarves you control. A deck may have up to 7 cards named 7 dwarves. To go along with that, we've got 7 dwarves, a 2-mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck may have 7 cards named 7 dwarves in it. To go along with that, we've got 7 dwarves, a 2-mana 2/2 that gets +1/+1 for each other creature named 7 dwarves you control. A deck may have 7 cards named 7 dwarves. To go along with that, messing with you. In at number 3, we've got another really cool card that works very, very well with our commander, and it's more in the artifact realm. Tanglewire is a great include in this deck. 3 mana for an artifact with Fading 4, which means it comes into play with 4 fade counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a fade counter from it. If you can't, sacrifice it. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player taps an untapped artifact, creature, or land he or she controls for each fade counter on Tanglewire. So why is this good? Well, this is a great way that we can tap all of our dwarves for free, and it's going to really set back our opponents. So we're getting a major advantage by being able to tap all of our dwarves, make a bunch of treasure tokens, and our opponents, they're not going to have built a deck to sort of take advantage of this. To go along with this, and also it's an artifact that you can fetch up with our commander if you sacrifice some treasures. Goblin Engineer is a fantastic card with Tanglewire. 2 mana for a 1/2. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an artifact card, put it into your graveyard, and shuffle your library. Then you can pay a red and tap it, sacrifice an artifact. So the treasure tokens our commander makes are artifacts. So this can sacrifice a treasure to get back a Tanglewire or another artifact. Return target artifact card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this can repeatedly bring back Tanglewire, keep tapping everything down, and we keep tapping our dudes, creating a bunch of treasure tokens. Going along with this, Keldon Battlewagon is an excellent artifact that we can search up. 5 mana for a 0/3 with Trample, incredible. It can't block, even better. And when it attacks, sacrifice it at the end of combat. Wow, what a set of abilities. But you can tap an untapped creature you control. It gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the tapped creature's power. So this is another way that we can tap all of our dwarves for free, and we can also end up with a massive beater that can fly in for a ton of damage. To go along with it, Goblin Engineer and Goblin Welder are very much the same card, but Goblin Welder is in some ways better. It doesn't have the tutor effect, but it's really, really good. Single red for a 1/1 Goblin Artificer. Can tap, choose target artifact a player controls and a target artifact card in that player's graveyard. If both targets are still legal as this ability resolves, that player simultaneously sacrifices the artifact and returns the artifact card to the battlefield. So again, this can bring back the Tanglewire or any other big artifacts that we got, but it can also target your opponent's artifact. So say they've got a Blightsteel Colossus on the field and an artifact land in the graveyard. You can switch them to, and the Blightsteel will go away as it shuffles into the library. Similar to this, we've got a couple of other ways to tap things here. Chiron Negotiations is a 4 mana enchantment. Can tap an untapped creature you control. It deals 1 damage to target player. So, with all of our dwarves on the field, we're going to be making tokens and also dealing damage to our opponents. The artwork on this just looks ridiculous. I think it's a bunch of goblins with blow darts, I think. I don't know. It just looks incredible. On the artifact front, these are things that you can tutor up with your commander. Headstrong Koto is a 6 mana artifact. You can tap an untapped creature you control. Target player puts the top card of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So we could try and mill our opponents out, but if we target ourselves and we have a Goblin Engineer or a Goblin, whatever it was called, I can't remember, Artificer, you can bring back your own artifacts. So we're probably going to be targeting ourselves with these abilities to mill ourselves and get some good things into the graveyard. Altar Golem is a 7 mana golem with trample and is a star. Its power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures in play. That's everyone's creatures, including our own. It doesn't untap during its control's untap step. Tap 5 untapped creatures you control, untap Altar Golem. So we're going to be wanting to tap 5 of our dwarves So untap this big beastie boy. And when we do, we're going to be making 5 treasure tokens with our commander. Really, really nice. Which brings me on to number 2. Goldspan Dragon. 5 mana for a 4/4 dragon, so we can tutor it up with our commander's ability. With flying and haste. Whenever it attacks, it becomes the target of a spell. Create a treasure token. And treasures you control have tap, sacrifice this artifact, add 2 mana of any one colour. So this turns all of our artifacts into double artifacts. And it's just so powerful. And it's a great card that we can tutor up with our commander. And because it has haste, we can attack straight away. Absolutely classic include here. And to go along with it, we've got a lot of treasure synergy cards. Captain Lannery Storm is a 3 mana 2/2 with haste. It's a human pirate, so sadly not a dwarf. And whenever it attacks, create a colours treasure token that has sacrifice it, add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. When you sacrifice a treasure, Captain Lannery Storm gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So, if we have a ton of tokens, treasures on the field, this could potentially be a lethal attacker. You know, it could become absolutely colossal and smash in for a ton of damage. And if not, it's a nice early play that will generate us a couple of tokens when it attacks. To go along this, we've got Treasure Map. 2 mana for an artifact. You can pay 1 and tap it, scry 1. Put a landmark counter on it. Then, if there's 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove those counters, transform it, and create 3 treasures, and it flips. And it flips into Treasure Cove. Treasure Cove is a land that taps for colours, and it has sacrifice a treasure, draw a card. Excellent way that we can make use of all of our treasure tokens and just get a lot of card advantage. And in the early game, scrying 1 is really nice. We can filter through our deck. You know, if we've got too many lands, put a land to the bottom. If we're trying to find a land, put whatever creature or whatever is on top onto the bottom. Really, really nice card, and I absolutely love it. To go along with this, Vault Robber is an excellent dwarf that has a tap ability itself. Pay 2 mana for a 1/3, and you can pay 1 and tap it. Exile a creature card from your graveyard, create a treasure token. So, with our commander on the field, not only is this ability going to create a treasure, but the actual tapping will create a treasure for us as well. So this is 1 mana, create 2 treasures. It's mega ramp. It's lovely. Stormkiln Artisan is a 4 mana 2/2 dwarf shaman. Gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control. So we're going to have a lot of treasures. So this guy is just going to be colossal on his own. But Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery, create a treasure token. This is very secondary in this deck, but any removal spells that we run, we're going to be getting treasures from it. So really nice little include. Then Impulsive Pilferer is a 1 mana goblin pirate. And when it dies, create a treasure token. Then it has Encore for 4 mana, which means exile this card from the graveyard. For each opponent, create a copy of that, and it can attack this turn. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the end step. So when you Encore it, you're going to be getting 3 treasures from that as well. Really, really good. Which brings me on to number 1. And in at number 1, we've got a bunch of dragons, because what's better than searching up artifacts? It's dragons. Everyone wants a big, massive dragon, don't they? And one of my favourite ones for the deck is Moonveil Dragon. 6 mana for a 5/5 with flying, and you can pay a red. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. So, the main sort of building of this deck, we want a ton of little dwarves. And then we want to search something up that's, you know, absolutely colossal like this. And paying a red to pump our entire team, we're going to crash in for a ton of damage with all of our dwarves. Really, really good. And for a single red, you're going to be getting 10 power or more. It's really, really cool. But sometimes you just want one massive dragon. Dragon Tyrant is a 10 mana 6/6 with flying, trample, and double strike. At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice it unless you pay quad red, which just looks wonderful, all those red symbols next to each other. Can pay red to give it +1/+0 until end of turn. So if you search this up at someone's end step, yes, in your upkeep you have to pay 4 mana, but then you could be crashing in for absolutely tons of aerial damage. Really, really good. The artwork's wonderful. Look at him scorching everything to death. And it's going to kill some players. Hellkite Tyrant, 6 mana for a 6/5 dragon with flying and trample. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all artifacts that player controls. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. Really nice, can steal a couple of Sol Rings, you know, a couple of other artifacts. And even if you're just getting a little bit of value off this, again, search it up at your opponent's end step, so then you can attack straight away because this doesn't have haste built in. But you're going to get a ton of value off it and potentially win the game as well. Then there's Balefire Dragon, 7 mana for a 6/6 with flying. It's a dragon. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to each creature that player controls. So it's a board wipe on a dude, but if you can find a way to give it lifelink, like say you've got an equipment that grants lifelink, this is going to deal damage to not only the player, so we're going to gain 6 or a bit more. It deals that damage to every single creature your opponents control. So we're going to be gaining 6 odd life on every single creature. So this could skyrocket your life total into the heavens. Then this one's a cool one. Taurian Mauler, 3 mana for a 2/2 with Changeling. So it's not only is it a dwarf, so it's going to grant us treasure tokens and get buffed by our commander, but it's a dragon that we could potentially search up. Not the best target for searching up, I'll admit, but it is really quite cool. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a 1/1 counter on Taurian Mauler. So it will grow and grow and grow. Really nice little include. Then Skyline Despot is a 7 mana 5/5 with flying. When it enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch, which means you draw a card at the end of your turn. And if someone deals combat damage to you, they become the Monarch. So you can pass it around. It's very manipulative. It's really, really good. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you're the Monarch, put a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So again, we want to search this up at an end step, and then we get the draw at the end of our turn, but at the beginning of our upkeep, we get another 5/5 dragon. Nice bit of value there. And then finally, overcrossing the sort of dragon and artifact paths is Steel Hellkite. 6 mana for a 5/5 with flying. You can pay 2, get +1/+0 until end of turn, and pay X, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value X, whose controller was dealt combat damage by Steel Hellkite this turn. Activate only once each turn. So this is potentially a lovely little board wipe. You can surprise your opponents with it and just absolutely decimate their entire board. And those are my top 5 cards for this Kaldheim Commander. It's really, really cool. The alternate art looks sick. And, dwarfs as a tribe, they're just so terrible. But this is a great little build around that you can have fun with. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. It would make me very happy. I'd go, So please do. I'll see you soon, and bye.